Okay. So we're back. Part 3 of Living in the City of God. We're on to book 2, but the first part that we're talking about actually begins in chapter 29. He says, St. Augustine, of course, says, "However great and good your natural gifts may be, it takes true piety to make them pure and perfect. With impiety, they merely end in loss and pain. Choose now your course, not to seek glory in yourself, but to find it infallibly in the true God." Let's look up what impiety means together. Impiety. Impiety is defined as lack of reverence, respect, or piety, particularly toward God, sacred things, or religious practices. It signifies a state of irreverence or a specific impious act. It can also refer to a lack of dutifulness or general disrespect, such as towards elders. So, the opposite of that, obviously, is to have respect for God, for everything that he's talking about, basically. However great and good your natural gifts may be, it takes true piety to make them pure and perfect. So that goes to saying how people can get really cocky or think that they have some sort of level up on people that don't exactly have what they have their gift. In doing so, you are going to end in loss and pain, just as it says here. Choose now your course, not to seek glory in yourself, but to find it infallibly in the true God. He goes on to say, "Let your freedom assert its rights against the unclean spirits who have placed upon you the obligation of solemnly exhibiting their shame, as though it were a holy thing." So, I'm actually going to lay down because I'm like crouching to talk to you guys. Okay. "Let your freedom assert its rights against the unclean spirits who have placed upon you the obligation of solemnly exhibiting their shame as though it were a holy thing." So that's pretty self-explanatory, not letting people that think you are obligated to do for them, not letting them assert their right in your life, in order to control you, because your freedom through God is more powerful and is actually the supreme right. And usually how they do this is through trying to make you feel ashamed or putting blame on you, which I've talked about in many, many videos, and how it is a sign of wicked behavior. And it says right here that it goes within the scope of how unclean spirits operate in order to control. St. Augustine goes on to say that glorious beyond compare is the heavenly city. There, victory is truth, dignity is holiness, peace is happiness, life is eternity. Glorious beyond compare is the heavenly city. There, victory is truth, dignity is holiness, peace is happiness, life is eternity. So that was the end of book 2. We are now in book 3, and in chapter 4, St. Augustine states that it is expedient for states that men of valor should claim divine lineage, however shallow the pretense. This is on the theory that, by the sublime fiction, the human spirit, urged on by the self-assurance of being divinely born, will venture into great exploits, and by the confidence such illusion inspires, achieve more signal success. So let me stop there. He's talking about people that considered themselves a god or a goddess, even though they are in a human body. These are the people urged on by the self-assurance of being divinely born. They will venture into great exploits, so doing things because they think they have the right, because of what they believe in themselves. By the confidence such illusion inspires, achieve more signal success. You cannot but observe how wide a door this view, which I have summarized in my own words. Sorry for all the noise. would open to shame and false pretense. This is especially so where lies even about the gods are regarded as advantageous to the people. This is especially so where lies even about the gods are regarded as advantageous to the people. Endless fictions will be invented and invested with a so-called sacred and religious character. So definitely stay away from people that claim to be a reborn god or claim to be something that allows them to consider themselves more sacred and more religious, you could call it, or just higher in ranking than to everybody else, because that is false. And it's a sham, as he says right here. It's shame and it's false. It's sham. It is shameful, but it is a sham and it's false. You have the kingdom of heaven within you. Everybody's trying to sell a ticket to get in the gates, and it's false. And he goes on to say, so this is actually, we are now in book 4, and this is the end of chapter 2. St. Augustine quotes somebody called Apuleius. Apuleius briefly refers in a passage of his treatise De Mundo, where he says that all earthly things are subject to change, to transformation, and to annihilation. I read this as everything that is in our physical world. It is subject to change, to transformation, and to annihilation, just like our bodies. If you haven't seen that movie Annihilation, definitely go watch that. It's one of my favorites, but that is a beautiful quote, and I wanted to include that. In chapter 3, it states that we must not be carried away by hollow verbal blasts and allow our judgment to be confused by the high-sounding words of prattlers about nations, kingdoms, and provinces. Let us imagine 2 individuals. For each man, like a letter and a word, is an integral part of a city or a kingdom, however extensive. Of these 2 men, let us suppose that one is poor, or better, in moderate circumstances. The other, extremely wealthy, but our wealthy man is haunted by fear, heavy with cares, feverish with greed, never secure, always restless, breathless from endless quarrels with his enemies. By these miseries, he adds to his possessions beyond measure, but he also piles up for himself a mountain of distressing worries. The man of modest means is content with a small and compact patrimony. He is loved by his own, enjoys the sweetness of peace in his relations with kindred neighbors and friends, is religious and pious, or pious, I'm pretty sure it's pious, like we just talked about impiety, of kindly disposition, healthy in body, self-restrained, chaste in morals, and at peace with his conscience. I wonder if there is anyone so senseless as to hesitate over which of the 2 to prefer. He goes on to say that on this earth, therefore, rule by good men is a blessing bestowed, not so much on themselves as upon mankind. But the rule of wicked men brings greater harm to themselves, since they ruin their own souls by the greater ease with which they can do no wrong. For it is in reference to vice that the Holy Scripture says, "For by whom a man is overcome, of the same also is the slave." The reason that he says this, I'm actually just going to read the whole paragraph. Whatever injury wicked masters inflict upon good men is to be regarded, not as a penalty for wrongdoing, but as a test for their virtues. Thus, a good man, though a slave, is free, but a wicked man, though a king, is a slave. For he serves not one man alone, but, what is worse, as many masters as he has vices. In that reference, considering people that you think you're underneath, or the people or things that you think you need in order to be happy, like that list goes on forever, those are vices. For it is in reference to vice that the Holy Scripture says, "For by whom a man is overcome, of the same also he is the slave." All right, that's the end of this video, this part. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you.